All right, everybody, time for the Saturday edition of First Pitch. I'm Matt Joseph, hosting today. Joining me, the panel, as always, Dave Koken and Tony Finn. Fellas, how's it going on Saturday?
Good, and I'm going to be faster than usual today because the NHL is underway. The first game is starting right now. We already had some big news in that game because Henrik Lundqvist is going to play goal for the Rangers. That was not expected to be the case. Shesterkin unable to play for some reason. I don't have the details on it, but I will tell you that pushed me into a play on the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm in action for my first bet of the day, and I want to watch that. But we got a lot of baseball to talk about, and unfortunately, there are some ominous signs that we might not have more than a couple more days of Major League Baseball. So we'll see what happens, guys.
Yeah, let's, before we get into today's action, why don't you guys recap us what's going on? Some interesting results, some big-time comebacks. Dave, how did you do yesterday?
I had a White Sox play, which got there, but I also played the runs line on that. So I washed on that, and kind of a bad play on Tampa. They're just not playing at the level they did last year, and the difference is defense. The Tampa Bay Rays were a fabulous defensive team each of the last 2 years. It's only 8 games, but they lead the major leagues in errors so far. You cannot give away runs if you want to win baseball games. Got a couple of games I'll probably end up on today. I have not posted anything yet, but I have 2 games circled, and quite sure I will get on those once I see the lineups.
Tony, yesterday, how are you? Did you get involved in anything?
I did. I had 2 games, and I lost both games. I went back to look the last time I had an 0-2 day in baseball. Listen, I've had a pretty good run, and I've been very fortunate. I think I consider it fortunate. Last time I had lost 2 games or gone 0-2 was the end of August. So, but we're only as good as our last play. So that's how bad I am. I'm bad. I was bad yesterday, and let's see if we can turn that around today.
Today's another day, and joining us now also from wagertalk.com, Steve Merrill. Steve, how was your baseball yesterday?
Not bad. We had a couple off nights on Wednesday and Thursday, but bounced back in the NBA last night, too. Had our first NBA best bets of the season. Had some overs there, and I liked them high-scoring games when you got the over, to say the least.
Yeah.
So on Saturdays, I want to do a little something different with you guys. We're about a week and a half in. We'll start with you there, Dave. Early impressions, just general. You could go big picture, small picture. Early impressions on the season so far.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, so I'll just come in off the cuff on this. I think some teams that had a lot of high expectations that had not been good in the prior seasons might be feeling a little bit of pressure and might have been overrated. Cincinnati has not played very good baseball. The Tampa Bay Rays, who I think really for the first time have very high expectations coming into the season. The Rays are usually a sleeper. This year, a lot of people think, hey, this team could make a big run. They have not played good ball so far. So there's some pressure, certainly. And as usual, pitching is dominating. Starting pitching is I know everybody has different approaches, but for me, it all begins with starting pitching, and then I move from there and make my numbers. And I think it's a starting pitching centric game right now because the bullpens are very unreliable. Very unreliable. Look at the Padres. I mean, this is supposed to be maybe and I've said this year after year, don't put too much stock in the preseason ratings on bullpens. Yeah. Because the Padres coming into this season basically were accorded the best bullpen in baseball. They've been one of the worst. Tyler Yates can't get his splitter over, and he's useless without that. And they almost blew another game last night. Yates was horrible. Drew Pomeranz came in and saved the day. Bullpens are an ongoing thing, and the less I have to do with bullpens, the more I like it.
Yeah, what about you, Steve? Any early impressions, big or little, so far this season?
Yeah, guys, if I ask you who the 3 top run differentials plus run differentials are in the league right now, you probably guess the Dodgers, right? Well, they're second. Guess who's first and third? San Diego is first, and Minnesota is third right now. They're plus 17. Padres are plus 19. Dodgers plus 18. So I know it's early in the season,
yeah.
But like you said, Dave, the bullpen for San Diego is a suspect, but they're scoring a lot of runs, and that helps.
Yeah, they are.
A lot of bills.
Yeah, that'll help. And as for the Twins, they're just, let's face it, last year wasn't a fluke. This team they can rake, and they can pitch a little bit too. They're a good baseball team.
Yeah, Tony, anything to add to that?
No, I don't. I don't. I think that Dave said it all. Both of them, Steve and Dave, said it all. I think again, it's early and it's easy for us to. It's easy to downplay or be surprised, but I think all of us know we've been around a couple days. We've seen a couple games in our life, a couple seasons, and another 2 weeks from now, if we have baseball, we'll be surprised about something else.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our big three today, and we'll start out with those Twins. It's Carlos Carrasco and Kenta Maeda on the mound this afternoon. Indians a slight favorite here. Carrasco, one of those many starting pitchers that pitched really well for that first time around for the Indians. We'll start.
I have that backwards, by the way. I think the Twins are the favorite.
Twins are the favorite. Okay.
Yeah, the price is right, but the wrong team. The Twins are the minus 115 here.
Steve, let's start with you. What's your thoughts on this Indians-Twins game today?
Well, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to me, Matt, is the difference in offenses. I just talked about the Twins having the number one run differential, actually a number 3. I'm sorry, Padres number 1, Twins number 3 at plus 17. But we touched on this yesterday. Tony, Dave, and I were talking about this game, the Indian game yesterday, and we're talking about how ice cold their offense has been all season. So one thing I was going to talk about, those run differentials, I'd like to look at that because in this shortened season, we're going to see pitchers go. They're going more bullpen than ever. They're going more, pitcher by rotation. Everything is going to be different. Offense is what you want to see. That's your one consistency as baseball. Is the lineups, for the most part, other than COVID or paternity leave like Mike Trout, your lineups are pretty consistent day after day. So I like good offensive teams against weak offensive teams. I feel like we have the advantage here. And as you said, Matt, it's only minus $1.15. It's pretty much a pick-em price.
Yeah, it's as good as the Twins lineup has been. They are 11th highest in swinging strike rate so far. So they are prone to striking out. Tony, what's your thoughts on Indians-Twins?
Well, in this matchup, especially the way Carrasco pitched, I listen. I like Carlos and Dave and I. Dave has been so far. He's been right. The Twins are playing like they picked up right where they left off last year, and I thought they overachieved last year. But so far, Dave's right and I'm wrong. And they've done the job, and they're in a division where if you're not, unless you can hit the ball, you're probably not going to pitch well enough. Save the Cleveland Indians, and they can't score runs right now to outstandings the Minnesota Twins, right? So that is amazing. In some of the things they've been able to do, I also have downgraded their pitching staff this year. We'll see. Again, it's early, but so far you have to like the Twins. Come on, there's Detroit, there's Kansas City. Chicago and Cleveland has the pitching staff, but they're just not hitting the ball as we discussed.
Dave, what do you think about the price for this game? Did you price it out this?
No, this is too cheap. It's just too cheap. If you make the pitching matchup relatively close in this game, which I think it is between Carrasco and Maeda, you then have to go to the offense. And the Twins' offense, they'll swing and miss, but I mean, when they make contact, the ball goes a long way. I'm glad to see Carrasco had a terrific first outing.
Yeah,
he's coming back from the leukemia, and that's terrific. But he's up against a better lineup here. I don't give him much of an edge, if any, against Maeda. I think that this is just value here, and I hate using that word because it gets overused. But the right price in this game is more like 140, and I think you have to go if you can isolate value on an everyday basis. You're going to win more than you lose, and I think here the Twins, any one game could go backwards, but I think the Twins at 115 is just too cheap.
By the way, it should be noted, Nelson Cruz has 4 career homers off of Carlos Carrasco, just something to consider if you're looking at the DFS, which we will get into a little bit later on. Game number 2 is the Astros and the Angels. Zach Greinke, who's coming off a rough outing his first time against Canning. We'll start with you, Tony. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, I'm a Cannon fan. I think Cannon has some upside. Now, he has a long way to climb to get where Greinke is, but Greinke's on the backside of his career. The Angels they're disappointing. They've been a disappointing if you believe everything you read and you see, and some of the additions they make with Rendon and healthy Japanese imports supposedly, and then Trout. Well, Trout's gone, and he's going to be gone for a little while. I don't know the protocol for him. I should know this, guys. I don't know what the protocol is for somebody who leaves for a while, but I'm certain that he has to come by, be tested, and sit for a couple of days, I'm guessing. So
He's pregnant, Tony.
He's really. Well, no, I know he's pregnant. I mean, I know he's on maternity leave, but I thought no matter I know there's no bubble, but I thought if you left the team for a certain amount of time, there was still
Tony. As long as he continues to get tested on a daily basis and continues to be negative, then it's a shorter.
Well, listen, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for baseball to be here Tuesday, Wednesday, as we discussed. I want baseball to be part of our job, and I really hope so. But as far as the Angels go, like I said, I like this kid, classified as a rookie. He's had a few cups of coffee. However, Houston's better than they've played. They've played a pretty good schedule, save Seattle. I guess we can classify the Dodgers as a pretty good team. And Greinke did have a rough outing, but Greinke's had plenty of rough outings. If there's a guy that's got the mentality, at least after he left the Royals and won the Cy with Milwaukee, et cetera, et cetera. This guy's pretty mentally tough now, and I sure like his chances against this lineup.
Dave, what do you make of the uneven outing from Canning? We saw he had the strikeouts going, but he also didn't last very long and still gave up 3 earned runs.
The problem for Canning so far in his career is really good first time through the lineup, really bad second time through the lineup. I mean, and there's short sample numbers, but OPS first time through the lineup, 562, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Second time through the lineup, 864, which is not fantastic. So, I mean, this is one where I like the Astros, but I'm going to hope that this is low scoring early and that I can grab a cheaper price in the Astros in game. Where I want to go against Canning is after he gets through the lineup one time. I think the Astros might be able to feast on him after that. I'm not really worried about Greinke. He's probably not the pitcher he used to be. Father Time gets to everybody. But there isn't anybody who's more cerebral than Greinke, and he will figure out how to get things done and be 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 3 runs. And that's all you need to do with the Astros because their offense is tremendous. No Trout still. Ohtani did not swing the bat well last night. He continues to be back and forth. Difficult for me to make a case against Houston here, but I'm going to wait around and see if I can get a cheaper price in game.
Yeah, Steve, a lot of the talk surrounding Greinke's start was the shortened camp affected him. He'll be fine. Do you think he'll be fine in this one?
It's hard to know, and I don't really want to have to try to guess. One thing I'll say about the total in this game, we talked a lot yesterday about first 5 versus full game. Full game overs make more sense because of the extra inning rules. But as Dave just said, if Canning's going to get hit harder the second time through, the Angels bullpen comes in sooner, one of the worst bullpens in baseball so far this year. If you like the over here, you definitely play the over 9 full game as opposed to the over 5 first 5 inning, in my opinion. What jumps out to me here, too, is once again the Astros, the cheating scandals. We talked about it yesterday. Will they be weaker this year? The cheating helped their pitching. They were stealing signs. On the year, they're holding teams to 224 batting average, opponent batting average. So their pitching's been okay. Their bullpen's been strong. We'll see what they're made of. But really, their first quality win, I don't even know if the Angels count as a quality win, was last night. Tony, those 2 losses came to the Dodgers, as you said, played Seattle before that. So it's kind of a wait-and-see approach still for me with Houston.
Yeah, one other note, by the way, on this game is that we'll see if Madden continues to do this, but he has had an extremely quick hook with his starting pitchers, and I'm not sure that makes sense given the state of the Angels bullpen. Right. I think you got to try and get more innings out of your starters because that pen is atrocious.
All right, let's go on to game number 3. Pirates and Cubs, Keller and Chatwood. Keller had himself a little bit of an uneven start. Chatwood looked very good, and he seemed to have fixed his issue, at least for one game with left-handed hitters last year. He hit him for a 306 average. Lefties in that opener, 2 for 15 with 7 strikeouts. Steve, we'll start with you. Also, what's the weather look like here? The wind blowing out. What do you think about this Pirates-Cubs game?
Yeah, Matt, last night, one of the best bets I did have was the Cubs -1.5 run line. I actually got it around even money near game time, so the line went down a little bit. I think the money was on the wrong side there. I released it at like -110, but the Cubs won 6-3. We touched on this yesterday. I think Teddy was the one that said yesterday, he has no problem playing against the Pirates. I was with him. I played against them last night. And the Cubs are hitting the ball. They've put up 8 runs or more in 4 of their last 5 games. In fact, their 6 runs last night was their smallest output since last week, or since the beginning of last Sunday, actually. So I don't mind playing the run lines against bad teams when the offense is hot, and Chicago looks like they're clicking right now.
Tony, what do you make of what Keller did in that last start? He had some. He got his fastball up velocity wise, but what do you think?
Well, I was a big I'm a big Chatwood fan. I mentioned that in one of our early shows, and when we talked, I think about his first start. I don't play much fantasy baseball anymore, but I did play one league last year, and I drafted him, and he was a pretty big disappointment. He really struggled with his command last year. It was kind of outside the realm of his DNA, at least in my opinion. And he's really pitching. I think he's owed $16 million by the Cubs, so I think they're going to, or $13 million, something like that. I think he'll start, and if he pitches like he pitched in the first game, well, first off, this is the Pirates. You have to like him, right? Let's talk about that again. Yeah, I think he has a pretty good record again. I think his career versus Pittsburgh's like 5-0 or 4-1 or something like that, with a pretty reasonable, with a good FIP and a good ERA. So Steve's, the bats of the Cubs can go deep, and if the wind's blowing out in Wrigley, then it's hard. It's either Chatwood or nothing.
Dave, with these two horrible bullpens, could this be the perfect situation for some in-game wagering if you get to a slow start here?
Yeah, I think that makes some sense, and the fact that the downside of it, though, is it's not a wind-out day at Wrigley. I think the total is just a standard total on this game. It's 9.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if it was one of those 10.5 or 11s where you've got the wind blowing out, and then you're going to get these two bullpens involved. It'd be like, let's sit and wait for 4 or 5 innings, hope the starting pitchers do well, and then smash the over on the live betting. But that might not be the case. I made this price about what it is. I made it looks like 165. So I can't say there's much value either way. I think it's a game the Cubs should win. I don't trust Chatwood as much as Tony. His control can blow up at any time, and if you walk guys, I don't care what team you're facing. If you start walking guys, you're going to get in trouble. Keller has still got to sell me. I know he's the most hyped pitching prospect in the Pirates organization, and he does look to have quality stuff, but I'm not sure he's a quality big league pitcher yet. Not terrible in his first start. I mean, it wasn't bad. He held the other team off the scoreboard, basically, but he's not a guy I have faith in right now. I guess I'd be looking at the Cubs here, but it's not anything strong.
You can find Dave, Tony, and Steve all on wagertalk.com. I'm on sportsmemo.com. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because we always appreciate your subscribing to us. And we've got plenty of videos. We've got even more videos coming up. There's going to be a ton of content because we hope that there's football. We hope that there's all sorts of things that are coming up here. And I was supposed to say, tonight at 7 o'clock here on the channel, Andy Lang will have a live betting show covering the UFC event tonight. If you're planning on watching it, come on in, and Andy Lang will be there at 7 o'clock just talking about the fights. And it'll be like, look, I think a lot of us can't have a ton of people in our house because of social distancing. So why not go at 7 o'clock and watch the show tonight and check out what Andy Lang is about to do. Before we do our quick hits, folks, why don't you guys we'll start with you, Dave. You mentioned the hockey play. What are you going to have for your subscribers and stuff tonight?
1-0 Hurricanes early, which is good. Wanted to see a quick goal against Lundqvist. The game's on in back of me, but I can't see it. But I did see that Carolina is on the scoreboard. I actually kind of like the Rangers a little bit in that game, but when the goalie info came out, it's like, okay, I'm jumping on Carolina here. I think Henrik is pretty much all done. I have one other hockey game tonight, and it's a game where I changed my mind from an early opinion to where the value. And I'm a math guy when it comes to hockey. Very, very much into what my number is as opposed to the betting number and capitalizing on what I think is value. So I ended up opposite my opinion and going for value in one of the NHL games tonight. The baseball I have not put up yet, but I think I'm going to have 2 games, and we'll post those shortly after we're done with this. And we'll see what happens if I have any KBO or not. I don't know. I haven't looked at the Sunday KBO schedule yet. I didn't have anything this morning, but KBO's been exceptional, and hopefully it will stay that way.
Steve, what do you got for your people tonight?
Yeah, we finished July last night with a 3-1 night, including that 2-0 sweep. I mentioned the 2 overs we had in the 2 late games in the NBA. So perfect 2-0 start in the NBA. Baseball's on a roll. Wagertalk.com. I'm going to have everything up in the next hour or so, finalizing the baseball and basketball cards. And by the way, Matt, I wanted to mention I do the NASCAR show with Andy Lang, of course, every Wednesday. After the show Wednesday, we talked about that UFC show he was thinking about doing. I didn't realize he was doing it this week. he says they find some tremendous in-game betting opportunities in the UFC matches, and that's why he wants to do it. So I highly recommend everybody tune in. I will be doing so, and there's going to be some money to be made. He says he loves the adjusted line when one guy comes out, has a big round, doesn't, vice versa, and he said he's done very well with it over the years. So excited to hear that show's on tonight. Andy definitely has an edge on that show, and there'll be some value and some money to be made.
And Tony, what do you got for your subscribers?
I do have, I kind of shortened my card, which I typically do if I have a disappointing yesterday. So I have one MLB, a late MLB, and a late NBA already posted. I don't have the analysis in there yet. I mentioned a quick note that as soon as our broadcast here, the first pitch was over, I would insert those and publish it. That's what I got.
And then you can find those guys on Wager Talk. I've got one MLB play up tonight and a freebie as well on sportsmemo.com. All right, let's start the quick hits because we do have a game coming up at the top of the hour, the Reds and the Tigers. Trevor Bauer, Michael Fulmer. We'll start with you, Dave. Trevor Bauer looked really good last time out against these same Tigers.
Gigantic price. That'll keep me out of it, but I think the Reds actually can be priced even higher than this. The Tigers are playing well. I mean, you got to give, it's a surprise. They've got 5 wins already. But yeah. Fulmer looked really bad in his first outing. He's not, I guess, not an opener, but he's also not going to be going deep into games. So you could be looking at 4 or 5 Tigers pitchers here. I think the Reds will probably get to at least one of them, and I would look for Cincinnati to bounce back in this game.
Steve, could this be a first 5 under maybe in that case if you get enough innings out of Fulmer and you take the Tigers bullpen out of it?
Yeah, actually 1 week ago last Saturday, I had the Reds on the run line. They lost that game outright. So I haven't had a good feel for Cincinnati as well. They've lost 5 of their last 6 now. Johnny Detroit, hedge that 500-1 future ticket on the Tiger. Do it right now. Hedge if you can. At least get that initial investment back. But, hey, look, I'm not trying to catch a falling knife here. I mean, the Reds went out of the last 6. They only had 3 hits last night. Buyer beware till they turn things around.
Tony, how many starts do you give a pitcher coming off Tommy John before you fully trust him, or is there a certain amount?
Well, a lot of it has to do with I have a relationship with a lot of beat writers, and a lot of it has to do with how they feel. The ones I trust, the ones I know that are baseball savvy guys, but for the most part, I think they all need some. I mean, as time goes by, as the years go by from the TJS, I mean, it seems like they need less and less time. It used to be, man, you got to give this guy, you have to give him 10, 15 starts to get his command back, to get his feel for the baseball. But there's been guys who have regained their command much sooner than that. So I think it's individual player by player, and that's pretty difficult to project, I think. So
last year, I'll say this, there was one situation when he was with the Indians. Trevor Bauer faced the Tigers back-to-back, had a complete game shutout the first game. Second game in 4 innings, gave up 5 runs and 10 hits. We'll see if that happens again this afternoon. As we said, that is coming up at the top of the hour. White Sox and Royals, Bolanos and Gio Gonzalez. Don't forget, Nick Madrigal got called up by the White Sox. You're going to see a lot of the heralded prospects get called up. Tony, we'll start with you here. Gio Gonzalez made a relief appearance, but it wasn't very a good one for the White Sox already. Here's
the deal. If you've got Gio in your fantasy lineup, you're the right team. It's the right team. Listen, the Royals have hit the ball. They've hit the ball. They still have some problems. Like a pitcher who doesn't have an out pitch, they still have a problem driving in those base runners. But Gio's pretty pedestrian, guys, at this point in his life. He's been pedestrian for 3 or 4 years. He doesn't have a big swing and miss rate. Essentially, he's pitching the contact now, and he's not the ground ball pitcher he was when he was younger. However, he still can induce ground balls. That makes him live against the Royals.
Well, listen, the White Sox have to hit to win, and they're not hitting right now. They just aren't. I mean, last night they jumped on this rookie for 3 runs very quickly, got a home run, and then never scored again. That's not an offense I trust right now, and I think the Royals stack up pretty well against a lefty pitcher who doesn't have great stuff anymore and doesn't get swings and misses. Yeah. The bad news is I don't really want any part of Boyanos. So, I'm going to stay out of the game. I made the price, but I think the price is a little high. I made the price 125. It's 140-ish. So maybe slight value to the Royals.
Steve, this Royals lineup has some pop to it. It's just, can you trust it on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, this is actually the second highest total of the day. The only one higher is Coors Field. and this line went from 10 to 10.5. Doesn't make much sense to me. Two bullpens have been excellent this season, at least statistically. Both teams have played 4 straight unders now. With that said, though, Matt, they are leaving a lot of guys on base, so it's a little misleading. Kansas City, 18 guys left on base the last 2 games.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a reason to start playing the over, but I mean 10.5. That doesn't make a lot of sense, that price.
By the way, could somebody send a news item to the White Sox third base coach? Don't run on Alex Gordon.
Yeah,
You just don't. Alex Gordon might not be a lot offensively, but he is a great defensive outfielder. And Madrigal, in fact, got the go sign to try and score last night, and he was dead duck at the plate. And, the announcers cracked me up. It's like, well, it took a perfect throw to beat him. That's what Gordon does. He makes perfect throws all the time. He's the best left fielder in baseball.
Yeah, all his talent left his eyes, went to his arm last year.
He's he's a former third baseman. He's got a great arm, and guy's got. I mean, you can't make decisions like that. And I don't know. Renteria might end up being a liability for the White Sox. I don't think he's much of a manager.
Make sure to hit subscribe. We are approaching 50,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up and make sure we'll get to your questions a little bit later on in the show. Weather could be a little bit of a factor tonight in the Rays Orioles game. Could be some rain in the forecast. Glasnow and LeBlanc. Steve, we'll start with you. Thoughts on this one tonight?
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on the weather. I never like playing games where there could be a delay. You just kind of all bets are off at that point for me, so I'd be cautious for that reason.
And I'll just chip in with Tampa as clearly the right side. And it's reflected in the price. 240 is an awful lot for a team that's playing bad baseball right now. And the Orioles, a scrappy bunch. I think Tampa wins, but there's no way I'm betting on it.
Do you play, Tony, at all on momentum for bad teams? I mean, we've seen some good baseball from the Orioles as of late. Do you play on something like that?
I don't play momentum, and not in baseball. I don't. I just don't. Momentum. I don't even play momentum in football per se. But when it comes to the NBA, that kind of where they seemingly just got off the court and they're back on the court, I think they can carry over. But I'm not a big momentum guy, no.
You can find Dave, Tony, and Steve on wagertalk.com. I'm on sportsmemo.com. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday, August the 1st. We'll continue on. Mets and the Braves. Michael Wacha looked like the Michael Wacha of old the last time out against Touki Toussaint for the Braves. This game was the game of the night last night, I would say, with a huge comeback for the Braves. We'll start with you, Tony. What do you think about this one?
Well, I like the Braves. Listen, the Braves can pitch. The Braves can hit. Whatever they want to do, the Braves, they have the personnel to do that. They have Tampa Bay and Atlanta, I think, have the best young pitchers in baseball. And that's saying a lot because the Dodgers have a few young pitchers that are pretty good too. And they have the best left-handers, which is really a commodity that is priceless, as they say. MasterCard says. In this game, it's hard for me to back this Mets team. They Diaz continues. You think he's got it back, and he loses it. And they go so cold at the plate at the wrong times for so long. You just never. How do you guys feel about it? I never am right about the Mets ever. I just stay away now. Almost.
I'll jump in. We're going to make these quick on these.
Okay.
Let's. Toussaint. This is really interesting. It's only 6 starts, so it's real small sample. But there's been a huge difference in his first time through the lineup as opposed to his second time through the lineup. So it's something to watch and see if that's a developing trend with Toussaint. I think the Mets are going to be behind early in this game. I like the Braves, maybe as a first 5 wager.
Hey, listen, real quickly, this guy, it's a real deal. But you're right. His command is poor.
Steve?
Yeah, Tony, you don't believe in momentum. Do you believe in letdowns? Because
I believe in luck. I believe in luck.
I mean, the Mets blew that 10-5 lead, as Matt said last night, gave up 6 there to lose 11-10. Hard for me to imagine. Dave brings up a good point. First 5. Hard for me to imagine the Mets are going to come out on fire tonight after blowing that game last night.
I agree.
Usually the Red Sox-Yankees is a headliner, and we've got Tanaka and Godley tonight. Tanaka coming off that concussion in camp. He's going to go 35, 40 pitches tonight. Had that horrendous outing last year in London against these same Red Sox. Steve, we'll start with you, Red Sox-Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's sometimes momentum in baseball, and it'd be hard for me to get in front of the Yankees right now. I will say this, though, despite being 5-1, the big come-from-behind win against the Orioles, they kept that momentum going. They didn't have any letdown against the Red Sox last night. Maybe this is that letdown game now after the trip back home, big game against another division rival. They're still batting just 233 in the season, but we all know that the slugging percentage, 455, that's what matters with this lineup. But once again, they don't get those big hits tonight. It could get ugly at times.
Zach Godley, pretty good first one time through the lineup. Not good after that. I think he's a relief pitcher. I've said that all along. I think he's a guy who's been misused. And if you watch him, his mechanics have a tendency to get really out of whack, and he starts overthrowing as he wears down. But I think he could have some success early in this game. And kind of an alternate bet, if you can get a first three, might take a shot with the under. I think one time through the lineup for these two guys could be good. After that, we'll have to wait and see. Yankees have an advantage, certainly, after the first trip through the lineup.
Tony, Tanaka is going to be wearing a special helmet on the mound. Do you think that'll affect him at all?
No, I think they can put him at fullback. He'll be just fine. That helmet, I'm sure it's protecting him well. Here's the deal. Anytime you can tell me you're going to go to the Yankees bullpen early, I'm on the Yankees. And Godley, as Dave said, I've never been a fan of Godley's. I always thought he was misused, and he was never anybody I could support.
My free pick tonight, I took a shot on the Red Sox first five tonight. I think there's a shot. It was at plus 105 on the plus half. I just think maybe the Red Sox get to Tanaka early, and then you see the lesser of the Yankees bullpen arms. Dodgers and D-backs, Urias and Weaver. Not a good start to the season for Weaver. Dave, we'll start with you.
No, I like his stuff, but he's got to stay healthy. And we're going to have to wait and see on Weaver. He's coming back from an injury. Urias, the leash is off. According to Dave Roberts, they're going to let him go and see what he can do. Kid's got a ton of talent, and I like him. I think the Dodgers have a good chance to win this, but I do think it's overpriced. I made the line 130, and you're looking at 145-ish. That's a little too steep for me. Nice win by the Diamondbacks last night. We're not big momentum guys, but boy, they needed that comeback win.
Steve, what do you think about this Dodgers team sending Urias out, who it doesn't seem like is on a pitch count right now?
Yeah, I think it was more letdown last night. Guys, we touched on this on the show yesterday, Dave and Tony, about, the Dodgers had the big win series, the 2 wins against Houston, and then they came in and got the road win against Arizona. I think they were just flat last night. And, Matt, that would actually apply to the Red Sox situation tonight, so that's good for your free pick there. Look at Arizona. They've yet to have more than 8 hits in any game this season. I mean, a tremendous mismatch offensively.
Yeah, that it's hard to believe because, we had a lot of hope for this Arizona lineup entering the season there, Tony, but we're not seeing it right now.
No, and when they traded, when St. Louis traded Weaver to Arizona and Goldie went over to, I thought Weaver was the best pitcher St. Louis had, and I wasn't very fond of their pitching staff. Flaherty ended up being pretty good. At least he was pretty good in the second half of last season. I'm telling you right now, it's hard for me to back Arizona, and it's hard for me to fade the Dodgers. It's just difficult right now. In this situation, it's a little overpriced probably because of the inconsistencies of the Dodgers, the Uranus. But it's Dodgers or nothing really in this game.
Quick comment, a comment from Skywalker OG. This is just an advertisement for Paid Picks, LOL. I think we've offered some kind of an opinion on basically every game on the schedule every day. It might not all be placed, but I mean, what do you want?
We're giving some good information here, guys. I think most people would agree with that.
If you don't like it, there are options.
Yeah, you don't have to watch, that's for sure. You certainly don't have to comment.
And Matt Joseph just gave his free pick on the Red Sox first 5 innings, so I think we're definitely giving some good stuff.
Yeah, and I think I gave one on the Twins, didn't I? I made the price about 140 or something, and the price is 115. That would constitute a play that I'm making, Skywalker. So quit bitching and listen.
All right, let's head to Coors Field.
I get really nasty with people at times. That's one of the good things about being old. I can do the get off my lawn as well as anybody. So you don't like it, take
You're
off.
right, Dave. You're right, Dave. I tell them all the time. They say, "I don't think I like you." I said, "Well, get in line." A lot of people don't like me.
Plus, Matt, the 2 Vegas guys got to get nasty. Us 2 Virginians have to stay nice and cool here in the right?
Exactly.
You guys have Southern hospitality.
There you go.
I'm a native New Englander who's out here, so you can talk about crusty. I got that, buddy.
All right, so now we got that out of our system. Let's head to Coors Field. Could it be the last start for Joey Lucchesi in the rotation? Because Mackenzie Gore is knocking down the door here. Dave, we'll start with you. Wild one in Coors Field last night.
I think Lucchesi stays in the rotation, and I think they bump. Who they used, and I'm blanking on who they used a couple of days ago as a starting pitcher. and he looks like the weak link to me. I'm sorry, I get forgetful with names every once in a while. I've always been like that. That's not an old age thing. Lucchesi, there's a huge home road dichotomy, but the guy's so good at Petco, I don't think you can take him out of the rotation. The flip side is he's not real good on the road. And Kyle Freeland looked really good in his first start for the Rockies. That's encouraging for them. They need him to get back to the form he had pre-injury a couple of years ago. I'm not sold that he's all the way back, but I'm going to watch this game and see if Freeland has gotten his swag back. If he has, he's a definite plus in what might be a surprisingly decent Colorado rotation.
Yeah, Steve, Freeland had a 9.25 ERA at home last year, and of course played that first start in Texas, which so far has been a pitcher's park.
Yeah, I touched on this yesterday on the Friday show. I said it's the home opener for Colorado, and I know there's no fans in the stand, but it's important because it was the first game in the altitude, the thin air, and the game soared over the total like I thought it might. 15 runs. San Diego's bats have been red hot this season. Colorado got 14 hits last night. San Diego got 10 hits. The Rockies, though, still are holding teams to a 199 opponent's batting average. That's how good they were on the road. You know, it's just a different game, obviously, in that thin altitude of Coors Field.
The irony of it, Steve and Tony, was the first 5 under hit rather easy. It was 6.5, and the under it sailed under, and then, of course, the runs later. Tony, what's your thoughts on this matchup?
I agree with Dave. Lucchesi's listen, the Padres, the organization and the coaches are high on this kid. They want him in the rotation. In fact, I think he's probably outside of these are top pitching prospects.
No, I don't agree with that. I think he's a number 5 starter, but that's that's not. He'd be higher in the pecking order on some other teams.
And this in the bullpen. Listen, if you look at the names there and you look at their history, that's going to change. And I was on Freeland. If we remember, he was my pick. However, that was Texas, and this Padres team is. If we're going to go with momentum or with teams that are swinging the bats, at least barreling it up, Padres are doing a pretty good job. I like Padres in Coors Field tonight.
And how about Grisham? By the way,
yeah,
this was supposed to be. We got to plug somebody into center field, and Grisham won the job kind of by default.
No, I like that. I tried to pick him up. Yeah, in my one fantasy league, and I already maxed out my transaction, so I couldn't get him.
Oakland and Seattle, Kikuchi and Fiers here. Kikuchi did not pitch very well like we predicted that day, and he was walking people, which wasn't one of his issues in the past. But when you start walking people, Dave, especially when a guy who has stuff that poor, it's going to be an issue.
Anybody can have a good game. So maybe Kikuchi has a good game tonight against an Oakland team that's not exactly in stellar form right now. But he's not a good matchup because the A's do have a lineup that can punish lefties. And let's just call it straight. Kikuchi is only in the majors because Seattle paid a bunch of money to get him. He has not shown me anything to indicate he's a major league pitcher. His numbers are horrific. First time through the order, 904 OPS. Second time, 870. Third time, 907. Those are not major league numbers. It's as simple as that.
You're right, Dave. And they're not major league numbers on a kid who just came across the left pond, that was supposed to at least have some advantage because no one really had ever seen him live. And he was horrible. He was horrible.
I think they bought the deception. He's got a lot of deception in his delivery, but once you figure that out, his stuff is really ordinary.
That's right.
Fiers wasn't good for Oakland last week, but to me, it's the A's or pass here, and I think I'm going to end up on Oakland.
The one quote-unquote positive for Kikuchi was his fastball was 3 miles per hour faster, which I guess is good, but maybe that's the reason why he started walking more people. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had 1 loss last night. The good news is I had 3 wins, 3-1. The loss was Oakland on the run line, lost the game outright. So luckily I had the run line, didn't hurt us too bad. But this team is batting 194 in the season, guys. They're only 3-4, but they are not hitting the ball. And, I know we talk about momentum a lot today. This team has 3 runs or less in 4 straight games. I think there's something there. If they don't light it up tonight against a pitcher that's suspect, I'd be really cautious going forward until we see something.
That's a good thought, Steve. I like that.
Final game is the Rangers and the Giants, and Gabe Kapler with this waiting for the starting pitcher. It looks like it's going to be Smiley tonight and against Lyles, but Kapler last night, 2 nights ago, man, poor managing on his part. What do you think about this game tonight? We'll start with you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, Texas 2-4, San Fran 4-4. They got those 2 surprising wins against the Dodgers. They looked terrible, 17-2 loss in the first 2 games, and they come back and win a couple as plus 260, plus 270. Treaded water since then. I still think Texas is the better team, and I think long term, they'd be the play on in this situation.
I'll go along with that long term, but right now,
exactly, yeah.
The Giants are playing better baseball. They're playing with a lot of enthusiasm. You mentioned the managing gaffe by Kapler 2 games ago, where he apparently didn't know the rule about trips to the mound and had to leave a pitcher in that he wanted to take out. They got away with it anyway. No, they didn't. They lost that game. But the Giants are hitting. Very surprisingly, Yaz has been the key to their offense, and it's just a bunch of misfits, and they're not going to keep this up. But the good news is, for them, they're playing a team that right now is not playing to preseason expectations. The Rangers aren't hitting the ball. Jordan Lyles, the one time I saw him work in an exhibition, he was not good. Smiley's job is to go out there for 4 innings and try and get through without too much damage, and he didn't throw the ball that badly in his first start. So, I think this is a pick 'em game, and the Rangers are a bit overpriced. If you want just value, look at the Giants.
Well, and Belt and Longoria being in the lineup helps out. Tony, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, this game opened with Texas being a little bit of a favorite, but it's backed up to, as Dave just said, it's a pick 'em. And here's it: if you're backing Lyles, so yes, he was 7-1 with a 2 and change or a low 3 ERA second half from Milwaukee last year, but his FIP was 4.5. He was a run and a half from the ERA to the FIP. He was fortunate inside, outside, up in the zone, down in the zone, and he's not just pedestrian; he's below average major league pitcher. Both these guys are, and so you flip the coin. I don't know.
You can find Dave, Tony, and Steve on wagertalk.com. I'm on sportsmemo.com. As we get set to wrap things up, let's go to our DFS stud and sleeper. Tony, who you got tonight?
That's a great, I just said flip the coin. If I'm going to flip the coin, I did this last time too, and I'm going to I'll go with the San Francisco team that's 4-4, has played above expectations, and I'll take Smiley over what I think is going to. Lyles is over. He's pedestrian. If San Francisco's going to hit a guy, this is the guy they hit. I'll take that. I'll take Smiley.
All right, so Dave, what do you got?
I think Arias is going to break through for the Dodgers this year. I think this kid's got really good stuff. And I think he's a guy whose prices will go up, both from a betting perspective and from a daily fantasy sports perspective as the season progresses. So I think right now you can get him at a relatively inexpensive price against the lineup. It's not really producing much right now. So I think Arias is a good fantasy grab tonight.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll echo what Tony said about Smiling. That's just a play against that Texas team. As Dave said, they've been ice cold offensively. 2.5 runs, batting $1.80 on the season. So it won't take much for him to shut them down. But I'd like to look once again at offensive players. I mentioned this yesterday. It did well. Colorado, San Diego. I'd look at a lot of hitters from both of those lineups tonight. That once again should be the highest scoring game on the board.
Yeah, and I'll take a shot on Tyler Chatwood against that Pirates lineup. If Chatwood keeps the walks down, maybe the strikeouts go up, he's good. And also, I just filled my lineup up on FanDuel. Madrigal's $2,000. It's the cheapest you can get. And look, he's going up against the Royals rookie in a bad bullpen. So if you want to fit him in your lineup, you can fit in a lot of those guys that Steve said with regards to Coors Field.
One quick note, because I almost forgot this. In that White Sox-Royals game, check your lineups. Tim Anderson had to leave last night's game with some kind of a hip issue. And if he's not out, or if he's not playing, that is definitely something that's to me, it might be worth as much as 10 cents. He is a huge part of that offense batting leadoff. So check your lineups in the White Sox-Royals game before investing.
Make sure to check out tonight, 7 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Andy Lang will have a live betting show covering the UFC event tonight. If you just want to watch, get that in-game wagering. Steve gave a great plug for that. So Andy Lang here, 7 o'clock tonight, if you watch the UFC event. And guys, we'll let Dave go watch his hockey. It'll be most likely the same crew tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have baseball to talk about tomorrow. Thanks to everybody for checking out First Pitch, and we will be with you again tomorrow at noon.
Tequila time, guys.